This video looks at Exchange Street, which, as the sign says, is one of only a handful of post-medieval streets in the city centre, opened in 1829 to commemorate the first corn exchange built the previous year. It gave an access from the north to the marketplace. The northern end, in green, had existed originally as Museum Street and subsequently Post Office Street, with only the southern end originally being referred to as Exchange Street. Beginning at the southern end of Exchange Street, this is the general view from the walk, and specifically number 2A, as seen here in 1989, with a closer view from 1961 and still selling cigarettes in 2024. Taken from Guildhall Hill, we can see that this location on the right hand edge of this photo had been a tobacconist since at least 1936. Naturally, Jack Barton, Eldorado and Captain America's all have variations of number 4 Exchange Street as their address, and that brings us to the mystery of the Redhouse restaurant, otherwise known as Redhouse Tea Rooms. In the 1940s its address was number 4 Exchange Street, but these pictures, dating from the early 1900s and still on Exchange Street apparently, but I can find no reference to the Redhouse Tea Rooms dating from that period. It does not look like the same building that we see today. Moving along, this is 1991 when number 14 suffered collapse, necessitating the closure of the street, and compared with the equivalent view from 2024. This is the western side of the southern half of Exchange Street as seen in 1956. Thorns on the corner with Lobster Lane had a different roof line at that time. A fire next door in 1968 resulted in the loss of floors at Thorns, which were never rebuilt because of the possibility of road widening, which never took place. This is an internal view of Thorns in the 1960s. The other side of this top half of Exchange Street is now entirely Jarrold's department store, which has its own Lost Norwich video. This picture dates from around 1904. This is the far end of Jarrold's towards the corner with Bedford Street, which was the site of the corn exchange. This picture dates from 1938 and shows the second corn exchange to occupy this site, dating from the 1860s. A plaque in Jarrold's doorway commemorates it. Here we can see the inside of the corn exchange at work, and this picture shows the original corn exchange to have occupied this site from 1828. Let's detour briefly into Lobster Lane, a very short street named after the old Lobster Inn and the new Lobster on either side of the road. Lobster Lane, which is only 44 metres long, also had the Ironmonger's Arms, seen here in 1987. This is a general 2024 view of Lobster Lane compared to how it looked back in 1936. On the corner of Lobster Lane is number 24 Exchange Street, seen here in 1984 and built as Chamberlin's building in 1872, named for the wine merchants that occupied the site. On the opposite corner, this was the Corn Exchange pub from around 1867 until 1889. It then became Churchman's Tobacco Manufacturers and subsequently Back's Wine and Spirits Merchant, and is now part of Jarrold's. Next to this building at number 27 was the former museum, seen here in 1984 and built in 1833 to house the Norfolk and Norwich Museum. This was the building which gave this part of the street its original name. This is the 2024 view of numbers 29 to 31 Exchange Street, seen here in 1938 as the Post Office Tavern, which was subsequently renamed the Bull and Bush, the Black Swan and the Exchange Tavern before closing as a pub in 1996. Presumably it was the Post Office Tavern which gave the street its temporary name as Post Office Street, as I'm not aware of an actual post office having been on this street. School Lane goes off at this point and was previously known as Parsonage Square. The school referred to was the Model School for Girls, and for more on this see the Lost Norwich video about Bedford Street. Opposite is Norfolk House with its wherry and coat of arms of the Kingdom of East Anglia, built in 1951 on the site of a former furniture business destroyed in the Second World War. It's now part of Norwich City College, and this photo dates from 1954. Finally, towards the end of Exchange Street, there is a plaque referring to the site of St Crouch's Church, demolished in 1551. The chancel survived at the northern end of Exchange Street across the current junction, and may have been developed into a tavern called the Hole in the Wall. Across St Andrew Street, set into a flint wall in the open reach yard, a medieval stone corbel is believed to have come from St Crouch's Church.